Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. We're going to talk about the VBRE Playbook section on childcare as infrastructure, which is part of our resources around building a policy foundation. Today, I have two goals for you: to become familiar with the content and the tools in the Playbook brief section called Childcare as Regional Infrastructure, and second, to have an opportunity to consider ways to use this Playbook brief in your region. First, I'll introduce this approach as one of the four playbook strategies. As we go along, please think of this as a menu of options for actions that you can take, not a list of things that you need to do to complete in order to get this right. A couple of guiding questions to keep in mind as we go. First, what tools would help you implement this? And then, second, what do you need to do during an initial landscape assessment phase in order to prepare? So, what do we mean by treating childcare as regional infrastructure? The key to this strategy is integration, putting childcare development into long range planning alongside transportation, housing, and economic development. This creates proactive systems instead of one time initiatives. That proactive approach can create lasting supply. Three examples of what this can look like. First, CEDS, or Comprehensive Economic Development Strategies, can identify childcare as essential to business viability. Second, consolidated plans can allocate HUD funds for childcare facilities. And third, regional strategic plans typically coordinate childcare with housing and workforce development when this strategy is implemented. Your region will want to consider using this approach if childcare is showing up as a barrier for employers and working families in your region, and you're looking for a systematic rather than a one off solution. In the playbook, you'll see that we started each section with a start here. These are the most tangible, readily available strategies right at the top for you. If you're ready to move forward with thinking about childcare as infrastructure, there are four starting points we recommend. First, collaborate with state level partners. Since you're already in this community of practice, you're a step ahead. Keep building these connections with the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation and VBRE. This group can help you identify and participate in local and regional planning cycles so you don't have to go it alone. Second, leverage your regional delegation connections to the owners of various plan types and request time to present to them. You'll want to show them the economic impact of childcare. You'll want to demonstrate current needs in your region and help them see how childcare supports the other objectives that are already in their plans. Third, ensure people with lived childcare experiences are actually included in the planning processes. Think through specific people you might know who can share parent, provider, and employer perspectives and invite those people to planning meetings. Their voices matter because they're experiencing this on the ground, and policy always needs to serve those day to day needs. And fourth, launch data collection on supply, demand, and workforce impacts and barriers. The Virginia Early Childhood Foundation already has a supply and demand dashboard for your region, so you can start there and build out more specific information as you need. Now I want to talk about why this matters. Childcare supports the economy through what you can think of as a triple bottom line. You can see this in the Venn diagram. School-ready children, work-ready parents, and a strong economy with profitable businesses. All of these three things are interconnected. A key fact from our feedback gathering is that employers are increasingly identifying childcare capacity as a key factor in site selection. Several interviewees mentioned speaking with major employers in their regions who said access to childcare was going to be key to citing a project there. So this isn't just a nice to have. Regions seeking to attract and retain employers are not going to be able to do that without demonstrating childcare capacity. We know that the National Association of Development Organizations, or NATO, is doing more work recently on childcare at the request of its members. Often, those are employers who want to know that the childcare capacity is in place. These types of organizations in Virginia reported the same in our interviews. Those who are working on regional thriving are recognizing that childcare matters. There's a second big reason why bringing childcare into long-term planning is important, and that's sustainability. Rather than needing to solve for childcare shortages over and over again, when we treat childcare as one of the puzzle pieces in planning efforts, the system for solutions gets built alongside solutions for other ongoing needs. Here's the problem we're trying to solve. When childcare is overlooked in planning, it leads to zoning conflicts, challenging regulatory systems that take months or years to navigate, and lost opportunities for businesses to open or expand. But there's an opportunity here too. Many communities have elevated affordable housing as a priority in planning, and we've seen that approach improve focus, improve resources, and improve supply as a result. That same approach can be applied to childcare. We're not recommending that you all go out and create entirely new processes. Instead, we're encouraging you to integrate childcare into what you're already doing. That integration into existing planning processes can give regions an opportunity to plan for investments in childcare that support economic growth, workforce participation, and quality of life for families. So, how do you actually do this integration? On page 7 of the playbook, you can see the full list of plans where childcare can be integrated feasibly and impactfully. I'll highlight just a few of them to orient you. First, CEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. Those kinds of plans are done by planning district commissions every 5 years to guide regional economic prosperity. The way childcare can be brought in here is to paint that picture of how childcare impacts economic prosperity. The second example is comprehensive plans. These are done by local governments through local planning commissions. They're also on a 5-year cycle, and they coordinate land use and community development. We can bring childcare considerations into zoning and land use strategies to expand supply. Childcare businesses have to go through very complicated approval processes, including zoning requirements and land use reviews. When childcare needs are brought into planning, we can revise those plans to make it easier for those businesses to open or expand. Third, regional strategic plans. The PDCs are responsible for these, and they align planning across jurisdictions for transportation, housing, economic development, and environment. Bringing childcare in means cross-jurisdictional coordination. We know families cross jurisdictional boundaries to access childcare, and businesses need to plan across jurisdictions to be successful too. The final example is consolidated plans for HUD formula grants. Cities and counties who are eligible do a 5-year plan for community revitalization and annual updates. The funds are primarily for facility development, so we can bring childcare in so that community development block grants, home grants, housing trust fund, and other kinds of grants can address childcare facility needs. So we've gone through the why and we've gone through the how. Now let's talk about what childcare as regional infrastructure looks like in practice. Integrating childcare requires embedding it across planning components. It's not just about adding childcare to one section, it really needs to be threaded throughout. So it's helpful to understand what goes into a planning cycle. Most plans operate on a cycle, and they typically have these 6 consistent components that you see on the screen. Usually, they start with data, collecting information on a community's demographics and situation. This is where we can bring in data about childcare availability, affordability, workforce impacts, and what families are really needing. Here's one of the first big opportunities to bring in the perspectives of people with direct experience. Then comes community input. This is where childcare can be brought into the SWOT analysis, and we can assess regulatory alignment between what currently exists and what's needed to meet childcare demands. After analysis, a typical plan process develops goals and objectives. Here's an opportunity to address shortages and align with other priorities in the plan. Then comes the action plans, both reactive strategies to address current shortages and proactive strategies to build infrastructure. And then finally, evaluation, where community pays attention to how efforts are working. In developing the evaluation, plan owners are going to be deciding what to measure. And that's an opportunity to bring childcare into the metrics so we can actually tell how well childcare needs are getting met. So, this is an iterative cycle, not a one and done. Plan owners are constantly thinking in this circular fashion and planning for their next process. So, engaging with your planning process is a really big opportunity to start bringing childcare in as an infrastructure consideration. There's a critical insight that came out of our stakeholder interviews. These systems need to work together. Economic development, housing, environmental planning, transportation, they all need to be done alongside childcare because they're all interconnected. Our stakeholders told us these cross sector partnerships often go unrealized, though. Housing developers and childcare providers, for example, often don't understand each other's requirements, so they aren't capturing the opportunities for mutual benefit and their systems stay siloed. A solution is to start early conversations among these different jurisdictional and system partners. When housing developers are planning new affordable housing, childcare should be part of that conversation from day one, instead of as an afterthought that requires expensive retrofitting or maybe makes the possibility not really something that can be accomplished. We're all here because we already understand that thriving communities and businesses depend on childcare. Including childcare in long term planning is a systematic way to ensure focused, coordinated systems that support families, employers, and regional prosperity. This particular solution isn't about just fixing today's problems, it's about building infrastructure that supports your region for the next 10 years or more to come. I'd like to leave you with a few questions to spark your thinking about how to take this playbook strategy into practice. First, which planning cycles are coming up in your region that you could engage with? How is your region already, who in your region already gets it and could be a partner in helping make this a strategy you can realize? How is childcare currently viewed in your region's planning processes? Do you have a long way to go to move people into this thinking, or is this something that could be a near term goal? And then what quick win could demonstrate the value of this approach in your community? Thank you for listening to this explanation of childcare as regional infrastructure as one tool to help you increase childcare access and affordability in your region.